Positive Spin, presenting positive, innovative, and solution-oriented news from around the world. On today's program, we celebrate the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights by presenting the film The Story of Human Rights. Following that, we'll experience the Peace and Well-Being Conference and the launch of the International Pledge for Peace, hosted by the European Union. Then we'll hear an original song from the Luminaries, LA's conscious hip-hop band.
Hello, my name is Bill McCarthy, and I want to welcome you to Unity Foundation's Positive Spin television program. On today's program, we focus on the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Soon after the founding of the UN in 1945, international discussions began concerning the need to codify the basic rights of all human beings. Under the leadership of Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, these discussions resulted in an international conference and the adoption of the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. In the following film, we'll learn about the history of the development of human rights from the beginning of recorded time to the adoption of this historic human rights document.
Human rights is, geez, that's a good question.
Human rights. Oh, that's a tough one.
Wow.
I don't even know how to give that a definition.
I would probably have to do a little bit of homework or something.
Any right that I think just as a normal, human, any...
The rights that humans have?
Oh, that's a very large debate.
Zu mange ting.
Tú le puedes preguntar a 20 personas y te van a dar 20 diferentes opiniones.
Non saprei, una domanda complicatissima.
Guess we just take them for granted that they're there, but we don't even consider what they are.
Human rights are the rights you have simply because you're human. It's how you instinctively expect and deserve to be treated as a person, like the right to live freely, to speak your mind, and to be treated as an equal. There are many kinds of rights. Most apply to a certain group. But human rights are the only ones that apply to absolutely everyone, everywhere. That means kids, old people, poor people, basketball players, garbage men, rappers, teachers, Africans, Indians, Albanians, Christians, Muslims, Kabbalists, atheists, your mom, your dad, your next door neighbor, and you all have the exact same human rights. In other words, they're universal. But the question remains, what are they?
Name the human rights?
What the human rights are?
The right to live.
Equality between all peoples.
Right to religion, the right to...
Is there supposed to be a list somewhere I should be aware of?
According to the United Nations, there are a total of 30 human rights, which are usually lumped together and called simply human rights. They're all listed out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the world's most widely accepted document on the subject. But it was a long time in coming. At first, there were no human rights. If you were in with the right crowd, you were safe. If you weren't, well, you weren't. But then a guy named Cyrus the Great decided to change all that. After conquering Babylon, he did something completely revolutionary. He announced that all slaves were free to go. He also said people had the freedom to choose their religion, no matter what crowd they were a part of. They documented his words on a clay tablet known as the Cyrus Cylinder. And just like that, human rights were born. The idea spread quickly to Greece, to India, and eventually to Rome. They noticed that people naturally followed certain laws, even if they weren't told to. They called this natural law, but it kept getting trampled on by those in power. Not until 1,000 years later in England did they finally get a king to agree that no one can overrule the rights of the people, not even a king. People's rights were finally recognized, and they were now safe from those in power. Kind of. It still took a bunch of British rebels declaring their independence before the king got the point that all men are created equal. Which isn't to say he liked the idea, but he couldn't stop them, and America was born. The French immediately followed with their own revolution for their own rights. Their list was even longer, and they insisted that these rights weren't just made up. They were natural. The Roman concept of natural law had become natural rights. Unfortunately, not everyone was so thrilled. In France, a general named Napoleon decided to overthrow the new French democracy and crown himself emperor of the world. He almost succeeded, but the countries of Europe joined forces and defeated him. Human rights was again a hot topic. They drew up international agreements, broadly granting many rights across Europe. But only across Europe. The rest of the world somehow still didn't qualify. Instead, they got invaded, conquered, and consumed by Europe's massive empires. But then a young lawyer from India decided enough was enough. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and in the face of violence, he insisted that all people of Earth had rights, not just in Europe. Eventually, even Europeans started to agree. But it wasn't going to be that easy. 2 world wars erupted. Hitler exterminated half the Jewish population of Earth in horrifying Nazi death camps. And all told, 90 million people died. Never had human rights been so terrifyingly close to extinction. And never had the world been more desperate for change. So the countries of Earth banded together and formed the United Nations. Their basic purpose was to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person. But what were human rights? Were they the proclamations of Cyrus, the natural laws of Rome, the declarations of France? Everyone seemed to have a slightly different idea of what human rights should be. But under the supervision of Eleanor Roosevelt, they finally agreed on a set of rights that applied to absolutely everyone. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The French concept of natural rights had finally become human rights. So, in summary, at first, only a few lucky people had any rights, until one of those guys decided, hey, other people should have some rights too, which was great, except not everyone agreed. And it only took a few thousand years of fighting and declarations and more fighting until everyone finally agreed that human rights should apply to everyone. And they all lived happily ever after. Except for one little problem. If people have the right to food and shelter, why are 16,000 children dying of starvation every day? 1 every 5 seconds. If people have freedom of speech, why are thousands in prison for speaking their minds? If people have the right to education, why are over 1 billion adults unable to read? If slavery has truly been abolished, why are 27 million people still enslaved today? More than twice as many as in 1800. The fact is, when it was signed, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights did not have the force of law. It was optional. And despite many more documents, conventions, treaties, and laws, it's still little more than words on a page. So the question is, who will make those words a reality?
I have a dream today.
When Dr. King marched for racial equality, he was marching for rights that had been guaranteed by the United Nations for almost 2 decades. But still, he marched. When Nelson Mandela stood up for social justice in the 1990s, his country had already agreed to abolish such discrimination for almost 40 years. But still, he fought. Those who fight today against torture, poverty, and discrimination are not giants or superheroes. They're people. Kids, mothers, fathers, teachers. Free-thinking individuals who refuse to be silent. Who realize that human rights are not a history lesson. They're not words on a page. They're not speeches or commercials or PR campaigns. They are the choices we make every day as human beings. They are the responsibility we all share to respect each other, to help each other, and to protect those in need. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, where, after all, do universal human rights begin? in small places close to home. So close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere.
Positive Spin is now pleased to present Messages of Peace, part of a series of messages created to celebrate the UN International Day of Peace.
The world is too small now for wars. If we have a room full of gasoline and you're on one end and I'm on the other end, doesn't matter who strikes that match, because we're going to both get burned. So we need peace, not war. And we can do it. We can bring it about. We can help the environment. We can help the world. We can help make a better place for the next generation. And in the meantime, for ourselves. If we will just take a few steps here. Because I believe that all wars start with the little wars inside each one of us. So at night, if you feel like you're so frustrated or hate everybody, hey, you can get up in the morning and start again. You can say, I can be kind. I can be loving. I can evolve. And we can have peace. I promise you if we work together. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it for the next generation. And let's do it for ourselves. Peace, fulfilling our destiny with joy and love in light. Thanks for letting me talk to you today. Bye.
And now we'll hear an inspiring and empowering song from the Luminaries, LA's most conscious hip-hop band who have dedicated themselves to promoting peace worldwide through their music.
Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us to the leaders that pass away. Put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi live for peace,
aspire to be
someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King,
aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
life
for the moment indeed.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scarred, trying to settle the score to maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting a seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda killing my creed. Oh, what don't kill me make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fight for interest forward to dash the feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante, while the anti-proletariat hold the powers that be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace. Aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King. Aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ, life for the moment indeed. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the trees, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace. Aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King. Aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ, life for the moment indeed. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's love to me.
In the following segment, we experienced the Peace and Wellbeing Conference and the International Pledge for Peace, which took place in Brussels, Belgium, hosted by the European Union. The keynote speaker for the conference was Prem Rawat, who is recognized around the world as a leading voice for peace and an international humanitarian leader. Also speaking was Jeremy Gilley, founder of Peace One Day and the initiator of the successful campaign to designate September 21st as the official date of the annual UN International Day of Peace.
Honourable Gianni Pittella, first Vice President of the European Parliament, hosted an international conference in Brussels entitled Peace and Wellbeing, the Founding Values of the European Union. The keynote speaker, Prem Rawat, known internationally as Ambassador of Peace, addressed an audience of 250 dignitaries from across Europe. They gathered to sign a declaration of intent to foster peace among people of the world, calling for each individual to make a pledge to peace based upon the founding values of the European Union. 26 international institutions represented at the conference signed the pledge, now known as the Brussels Declaration. Initiated by Mr. Pittella and inspired by the message of Prem Rawat, the pledge is a call to action for peace initiatives to be created immediately across Europe and in other participating countries. These initiatives will then be announced at the International Day of Peace 2012, an annual event created by Jeremy Gilley, who also spoke to the delegation.
I realised there was no day of peace, and that's when I decided, could I take my film camera around the world and see if we could manifest the first ever peace day voted by every head of state in the world. So I travelled Burundi, Somalia, Gaza, the West Bank, India, Sri Lanka, all over Europe, North America.
The event was chaired by Anthony Selden, historian, Master of Wellington College, UK, and the official biographer of British Prime Ministers.
The history of mankind is the history of warfare and violence, but it's also the history of great kindness and humanity and love, and that love will triumph.
Mr. Patella's speech highlighted the importance of everyone's contribution. He said, "Peace is not only a goal of great men, but a duty entrusted to all of us." Mr. Patella's vision is for the Pledge to Peace to become an official annual event for the EU institution. Students from the Norwegian Red Cross World College then had the opportunity to ask Mr. Patella and Mr. Rawat questions on the topic of peace and well-being.
The school that I'm from, our mission statement is to create peace through education.
The formal event concluded with a Pledge to Peace signing. Before this took place, 3 of the signatories spoke to the delegation about their reasons for wanting to participate in this pledge. Mr. Jeremy Gilley from England, founder of the Peace One Day movement, with widespread participation in observance of a day of peace around the world, will be responsible for reporting actions arising from this pledge.
I think it's wonderful that there is a peace pledge. I think it's wonderful that we're all here in the European Parliament having these amazing conversations, because that's what it's about. We need to believe in peace, we need to talk about peace, we need to carry out activity towards a more peaceful world.
Mr. Samanto Roy, representing the Sahara Group from India, talked about his vision of peace for the company's 1 million employees, as well as its 6 million customers that it interacts with on a daily basis. The formal event concluded, and a group photo of the speakers, dignitaries and delegates was taken as a remembrance of the event. Following this, Prem Rawat, Mr. Patella, Dr. Selden and the Pledge to Peace signatories were interviewed.
Very good. How are you? Lovely to see you again. Great to see you. Looking very well as ever.
Kevin Everett.
Yes, of course. Very good to see you. Great to see you.
And Jeremy Gilley from Peace One Day.
It's the power of people. It is the people who have to emerge victorious.
I agree on this point.
And this disaster can be foretold because it is supposed to be the few that work for the many. This is democracy, few that work for the many. Thank you. Thank you. For you.
Thank you very much.
Now, I could talk for over an hour just on this subject, people. Because we look at ourselves by our name tags. We look at ourselves with the hats that we wear, by the uniforms that we wear. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? But people, we are all people. We are human beings. And human beings desire peace. Is peace a luxury or necessity? This is a fundamentally important question. Fundamentally important question. We know that breathing is not a luxury, it is a necessity. We know that water is not a luxury, it is a necessity. We know sleep is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Is peace a luxury or necessity? I am not here to impose my opinions on you. But I say to you that peace is a necessity, not a luxury. I have seen very rich wanting peace, and I have seen very poor wanting peace. Wherever I go, that's what people want. People want simple things at the end of the day. What I have seen is people want is a little elbow room so they can practice their religion, they can love their family, they can have food to eat, they can have a place to stay, and they can do what they want to do to be happy. This is what people want. But when you have the elements of greed, when you have the elements of fear, when you have the elements of anger, when you have the elements of confusion come in between people and their own desires, everything becomes very convoluted. And this is what is happening. You can see it all around. This is what is happening. Will institutions bring peace? No. 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 Why? Because peace already is inside of everyone. What institutions can do is to help people find that peace within them, not create it. We think that peace is absence of war. Peace is not absence of war. Peace is something else. And it begins with you and me. Each one of us.
Well, that's our show for today. I'm Bill McCarthy. We hope this program has inspired you to take action in your local community to create a better world. And I want to remind you that everyone can make a difference. Go out and make some positive news.